It was supposed to be an ordinary morning. The city was calm, streets lined with golden sunlight, and cars hummed quietly in the background. But for one woman, Special Agent Maya Richardson, it was about to turn into a moment she'd never forget. As she drove to her next briefing, dressed in plain clothes, she noticed flashing lights in her rearview mirror. A police cruiser signaled her to pull over. She slowed down, confused, checking her seatbelt and signals. Everything was perfect. The officer, a young man with mirrored shades, approached with his hand on his holster. "License and registration," he demanded, his tone sharp, suspicious. Maya's voice was calm, professional. "Of course, officer." She reached slowly for her ID, careful and polite. But the tension rose fast. The officer's eyes narrowed. "Don't move," he barked suddenly. Maya froze, heart pounding. She tried to speak, "I'm with the bureau," but he cut her off, hand gripping his holster tighter. What happened next would leave the entire station speechless within minutes. The officer's voice echoed through the quiet street. He didn't care who she said she was. "Step out of the vehicle, now," he ordered, pointing toward the curb. Maya raised her hands calmly, stepping out as instructed, her FBI badge still visible in her wallet. "Sir, please look at my identification," she tried again, but he only smirked. "Nice try," he said, his tone mocking. "Everyone's an agent these days." Nearby, a couple of bystanders began recording. The air grew heavy with disbelief. Maya stayed professional. She'd been trained for worse, but inside, her heart ached. She knew too well how quickly assumptions could destroy truth. The officer circled her car, shining his flashlight for no reason, pretending authority he didn't understand. Maya finally took a deep breath and said, "You're making a serious mistake." He laughed. "Yeah. We'll see about that." Those words, cocky and careless, would soon return to haunt him. A black SUV turned the corner, quiet, official, unmistakable. The officer didn't notice it at first. But the moment the vehicle stopped behind his cruiser, the air shifted. Two figures stepped out, suits, badges, presents. One of them spoke into his radio, glancing toward Maya. "Agent Richardson, you okay?" The young officer froze. His face drained of color as he realized who he'd been mocking. The FBI crest gleamed under the sunlight, undeniable now. Maya didn't move, she just stared at him, calm but disappointed. "This officer was questioning my credentials," she said softly. The SUV agents exchanged looks. The local cop stepped back, mumbling, I didn't know." His voice trembled now. The cameras were still rolling. Bystanders whispered. Justice was arriving, not with anger, but with silent authority. The senior FBI agent walked closer to the stunned officer. "You pointed your weapon at a federal agent without cause?" he asked firmly. The officer tried to defend himself. She looked suspicious. "I was just doing my job." The agent shook his head. "Your job is to protect, not to assume." Maya watched quietly, not gloating, not bitter, just deeply saddened. She had worked her entire life to serve her country, and yet, a uniformed man couldn't see past his assumptions. The senior agent gestured to another officer who had arrived as backup. "Take his statement. We'll handle this." The young cop lowered his gaze. For the first time, he realized how one moment of arrogance could rewrite his entire career. Inside the nearby precinct, silence filled the room. The officer sat with trembling hands, trying to explain what had happened. "I thought she was reaching for something," he mumbled. "I didn't know she was FBI." Maya sat across from him, her badge now resting clearly on the table. "You didn't even look," she said gently. "You reacted before you saw the truth." Her tone wasn't angry, it was human. The captain entered, glancing between them. "Officer Daniels," he said sternly, "you're suspended pending investigation." Daniels looked at Maya, guilt written all over his face. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Maya nodded slowly. "Just make sure next time, you look before you judge." News spread fast. The video hit social media within hours. Millions watched as the story unfolded, a police officer mocking an undercover FBI agent, only to be humbled minutes later. But what stood out wasn't the mistake, it was Maya's grace. She didn't lash out or humiliate him publicly. She chose professionalism over pride. In interviews, she said, "It's not about revenge, it's about awareness. We all need to see people for who they are, not what we assume." Her words struck a nerve nationwide. Even the officer, now publicly apologizing, admitted, "That moment changed my life." Sometimes, lessons come wrapped in humiliation but also in hope. Weeks later, Maya stood before a new class of recruits at the FBI Academy. Her story had become a case study in restraint, composure, and courage. Respect doesn't come from the badge, she told them. It comes from how you treat people, no matter who they are. The room was silent, every eye fixed on her. In the back row, a familiar face watched quietly, Officer Daniels, now re-enrolled in ethics training, his pride replaced by humility. Their eyes met briefly, and Maya nodded. No anger. Just understanding. The incident that began with laughter ended in lessons that would ripple far beyond them both. Because sometimes, the strongest justice isn't punishment, it's change.